Okay, great. So welcome everybody. So I'm gonna suggest that we start seated today, and maybe we'll try some different shapes to kind of go through. And I want to just show you a little prop that I like to use sometimes for pelvic floor. So if you have, I'll show you a bunch of different ways actually that you can do this. So I have a pool noodle that I got from my pelvic floor physiotherapist, which is great. It looks like this, but you could roll a towel, you could roll your yoga mat up, you could sit on a bolster. So there are lots of different ways to do this. It's basically just going to be providing a little bit of pressure into the pelvic floor area. So this is especially helpful if you have tightness in the pelvic floor, or like bandaging, kind of like, after injury, if there's this feeling of like it won't let go. So try it, see what you think, and if it doesn't feel comfortable, of course you can move off of it. So if you have a bolster, actually, I'll just show you a couple options. So one option is you can actually just kind of straddle the bolster like this, and just have a seat. So that's going to provide a little bit of pressure, a little bit of feedback. Okay, so feel free to do that. The pool noodle, if you happen to have that, you can sit right on it, or you can put it up on a piece of support like the low block or the bolster. And it's just kind of long ways. It goes in between your sit bones. You don't have to sit on your heels like I'm doing. You could sit cross-legged depending on how comfortable your knees are. You could elevate that prop. And if all you have is your wonderful yoga mat, you can roll it up. And you can play with it a little bit. So it could be a narrower or a wider roll, and you might just sit kind of right on that. So again, there's just a little bit of something there to kind of feel, okay? So lots of different options to try that. And again, if it feels uncomfortable, you can just sit regularly. I'm gonna do bolster and pool noodle. And one of the things to really be aware of with pelvic floor health and healing is that if it feels uncomfortable or unsafe, it's not going to be beneficial for the pelvic floor, okay? Because pelvic floor is so related to our nervous system that we really need to make sure that we're doing things that feel safe and comfortable. And of course, if you've got baby, they can do this with you, okay? That's fine. This is my pretend baby. So see how this is feeling. Again, come off of it at any point if you need to. Okay, and I'm actually just going to elevate it a little bit more here. And then take a nice deep breath. And just kind of settle in. See how deep you can allow your breath to go. And if just a breath or two feels like enough here, that's fine. If you can tolerate this a little bit longer, and tolerate isn't even the right word really, if it feels safe and comfortable, if you're okay, see if you can really kind of melt over that little piece of feedback. And really encourage your breath to move down into that place. If you could breathe right onto that little bit of feedback that you've got going on there. And just soften as much as you can. So I do want to acknowledge that this is pretty direct pressure into an area that has been through some things, okay? Whether C-section or vaginal delivery, the pelvic floor changes in the experience of pregnancy. And sometimes there's emotions that can come up around that, okay? So if things are starting to feel a bit much, move off. If emotions are coming up, it's normal and it's okay. It means they're releasing from your body. So use your breath, okay? And you're welcome to exhale at your mouth as well, which just kind of helps to clear. And if this is feeling pretty comfortable and interesting and you're willing to try this, you might just shift a little bit, maybe side to side, forward and back, just see if you can kind of feel the different parts of your pelvic floor. And I know last week we were chatting, just, at least a couple of us have a really tight pelvic floor. The muscles can really hold. It's just like anywhere else in your body. If you have knots in your back or in your neck or something, they do benefit from a little bit of a massage, especially when we can breathe into them. And you might just notice like, oh, that right side feels quite different from the left. That's okay. That's great. For me, I'm pretty sure I bruised my tailbone in my experience. And so I often like to actually lean right back and kind of feel around that area, like closer to the SI joint. And those of us that have SI issues as well, sometimes that is related to pelvic floor stuff. They're intertwined. So sometimes if we can release here, that helps the SI as well. So let's just take a couple more breaths here. And if you like this exercise, you're welcome to do it at any time. I mean, you just need to be basically sitting on something. We don't want to do it necessarily every day, especially when you're new to it. And if you have a harder piece of feedback, like the pool noodle or the yoga mat. But maybe every other day, a couple times a week, just checking in with it and seeing if you can really calm with it. And then when you're ready, let's take that piece of support off to the side and just sit comfortably. So wherever you are, I'm just sitting on the bolster here. If you have the bolster, you could lower it down or just sit on your bum. And just take a moment to notice that. Notice if anything feels different for you. Can you breathe a little deeper into this area? Okay, and then we can try a couple of our contractions just in seated. So we'll try this in lots of different positions. It tends to work better for some people in some places than others. You can do a Kegel anywhere, in any shape, but standing is probably the hardest. Laying down is a little bit easier and sitting is kind of in the middle. So let's give it a try and just kind of see what happens. So as you inhale, imagine your pelvic floor, so that area around your genitals, just opening and relaxing. And as you exhale, imagine it gathering up as if you could pick up a blueberry with your vagina and draw it into your body. And then inhale and relax, release, softening like you're letting go of that blueberry. And as you exhale, gently draw it in and up. So this doesn't need to be a really full contraction. You don't need to necessarily engage your other abdominal muscles. It's just pelvic floor. And as you inhale, we're releasing. So pelvic floor physiotherapists are amazing. Okay, we're still working with this, and we're all different. So it's a good idea to see someone if you haven't. But I will just share for myself, I was doing a lot of Kegels in the beginning because I really wanted things to recover quickly. And I really caused myself some pain and some soreness. It was not helping me. I needed to really spend some time relaxing and actually take a break from the Kegels. And then now I'm restarting them again, but just no more than once a day kind of thing. Like I was really overdoing it before. So just, you can go too far in that direction. Okay, so let's just take two more. From what I understand, it's better to have a few really effective Kegels than trying to do like 100 not so well. And then when that's complete for you, just again, relax, notice how that's feeling. Take a deep breath. Okay, let's change our shape. I'd like to work into a little bit of a softening place. We'll do a little bit more centering, grounding, and then we'll do a bit more movement. So we'll lay back, and I'd love for you to be laying on something. If you have a bolster, I'm just going to give you a couple of options because I find for myself, it's not just my chest that's opening, but also my head is down all the time, looking, whatever, feeding. It's like always my head is down. So I actually want to let the throat open a little. And there's a nice way that we can explore that with, you could stack two bed pillows on top of each other or a bolster or just kind of whatever you've got. Even your rolled yoga mat you could use here, especially if you cover it with a blanket. So for this one, you would actually sit right up on top of the bolster, depending on the length of your spine. And you kind of want to think about laying back. Sorry, I need to come down a little bit. And allowing the top edge of the bolster to be just in the neck there. Okay, so I'm pretty long in my spine, so my bum is just hanging off. And I can use that as a little weight to traction my spine slightly. So I've got the top edge of my skull hooked onto the bolster, and my bum is just gently hanging down, and I'm getting this nice traction for my spine and my neck. I can have my hands just here down by the side. I can have them open as well. Obviously, this is a little bit harder if you've got baby with you, but you could see how comfortable they are. If you have a relatively still baby, you could give them a snuggle here or let them sit, or maybe they're just beside you. See if that works for you. So this is the shape that I'd recommend if you can. Okay, you can also sit on the ground, have your bolster a little farther away. This is just a bit more of a classic chest opening, and you can do that with pretty much any prop. And if that feels good for you, feel free to do that one instead. Okay. So whatever you can do to elevate your chest a little bit. This should be totally painless. It should be quite comfortable. I have my feet on the floor and my knees bent. The knees could fall together. You could do long legs as well, or soles of the feet together, knees open wide if you like that butterfly shape. If it's possible for you and comfortable for you to close your eyes, go ahead and do that. And notice your pelvic floor again. So we're in a different shape. It might feel easier or harder to release. Let your breath move all the way down into that genital area. And if it's a little hard to access the pelvic floor, so if it's hard to kind of feel what's going on there, if you don't feel any movement there, that's okay. It comes with some practice. But if we really relax the belly, usually the same thing is happening in the pelvic floor as the belly. So just letting your belly kind of puff up and relax on the inhale. And on the exhale, just kind of releasing tension, letting your shoulders drop and your jaw relax to the degree that you can. And I know some of you need to be sort of sitting upright and managing little ones. So just imagining that you're doing this. You don't have to be actually doing it to get a lot of the benefits. Seeing how much you can let go. So we were talking a little bit before about this sort of being in a stage where the role is caregiving, taking care of little ones. And it can be hard sometimes to know what it's okay to let go of, right? And so even just this small practice in the body, what is it possible for me to let go of in terms of tension in my body? And it doesn't have to be everything, right? There's not a right or a wrong answer, but just noticing, do I need that tension in my jaw right now? If I don't need it, can I let it go? Do I need that tension around my eyes? What would it feel like to let it go? Do I need to be holding in my belly? If I don't need to, can I let it go? And if I do need to keep that tension, just honoring that it's okay to feel that way. Sometimes we do need it. Nothing wrong with that. Take a few more breaths here. And then we can move a little bit. We can stretch when you're ready. So maybe the arms are coming up over the head, legs can go out long. Okay, you can place the feet on the floor. And if you're in the variation with the bolster with me, you might just want to wiggle down a little bit so that your bum is actually on the ground. And then we can wash the knees from side to side. So just taking a nice, slow, gentle windshield wiper. Arms could be open nice and wide, and you can look away from your knees as you rock from side to side. Okay, and then let's roll over to one side and just take a moment to curl up into a little ball. You can take a nice deep breath into your back body, your upper back. Maybe you're giving baby a little snuggle. And then let's work on the outer hips a little bit here. So this is probably one of my favorite ones to do in the playroom with the baby because you can interact while doing this. It's hard to count and interact, but we do what we can. So you're laying on your side and you're just gonna prop your head up on your arm, or you could rest your head on your arm like that, or use a pillow. Bring your knees together, point them slightly down towards the bottom of your mat, so just not straight out in front of your hips, and flare the toes so the feet are together. Okay, keep your hips nice and steady. We'll just start with our simple clamshell. So we're going to open the knees on the inhale, and on the exhale they close, and that's it. Okay, so just nice and simple, open and close. So we're just getting a little bit of that work into the outer hip. Good, and think about the knee going slightly forward and then up. Really nice, good. And then relax, let the knees fall together. You can take a soft fist and just pad out the outer hip gently with your hand. Okay, and then we'll try another one. So you're gonna straighten out your top leg, point the toes. Actually, flex your foot, change my mind. Turn the toes slightly down towards the earth. And then we're gonna do a little J shape. So the heel goes back and then up. The leg comes back down, heel goes back and then up. So you're just engaging that back of your glute and then the side, okay? Back and up. So you know that you're doing this right when you can feel some work on the outer part of the hip, okay? Try to keep the toes pointing down a little bit so it's slightly internally rotated, which just means we're gonna keep getting those side and back glutes working rather than the front ones. And just noticing how this is feeling. So, you don't see this very often in yoga actually. But for me, this has really been the key to my SI joint pain. So really doing the outer hip strengthening has for me been the secret to it. Really nice. Okay. And then again, relax, knees together. You can pad out that outer hip a little bit, especially if that was like, whoa, oh, it's intense. Okay, and then I'll give you one more. So you can do that one again if this one feels like too much. Again, if it's feeling like stressful seizing, it's not going to be beneficial. So just do that other one, which is a little more accessible, or keep doing the clamshells. Okay, otherwise try this. You're going to straighten out your leg, but you have it forward a little bit. So it's kind of in line with your knee. Again, toes slightly internally rotated, and then we just lift and lower. You don't have to do the J shape here. This one, it will probably be pretty obvious. You can probably feel that there's some strengthening happening here, okay? And it's not that we need to do a certain number. We just kind of want to work to that place of feeling like you've got something happening here, okay? So I'm aiming for about 8. But depending on the day, I might need to stop at 6. I've already lost count. I'm going to say 2 more. Feel free to count for yourself if that works better for you. And then relax, okay, and take that soft fist to the outer hip again. Nice. Okay. Roll onto your back. Take your right ankle onto your left thigh. So, sorry, the leg that you were just working. So this is my right leg. Whichever leg that was for you, take that ankle across your thigh and hold on to the back of the left leg. So thread the needle. Such a magical pose for so many of us, especially when there is lower back pain. So just finding that if things are feeling a bit tighter, you might need to have the foot on the floor. You might use a strap to draw in. You might elevate your hips on a little soft pillow, okay? Especially if you're tighter, I find that can be really helpful. And if this does bother your back, you could put a little pad under there. And you might want to rock a little from side to side too. Nice. We can let that go. You can give your legs a little shake or a little windshield wiper. And then we'll roll over to the second side. And depending on where baby is, you might be just readjusting. And I'm just going to come over here. So knees together, feet flared. Very gentle engagement in the core. It doesn't need to be a lot. And we're just going to start with those clamshells. So just opening and closing the knees, trying to keep the sacrum straight up and down. So there can be a tendency to kind of lean back and open, which is a good way of avoiding strengthening these muscles. Awesome. And then relax. You can pad out the outer hip. And then let's try this J shape. So extending that top leg out, flex the foot, turn the toes a little bit down, and then the heel goes back and then up. Back and then up. Yeah, just following the breath. Again, we're aiming for around 8 of each of these. It could be more or less depending on what you're feeling. And I'm notorious for counting and talking at the same time, so I might miscount. So round 8. Try to keep, again, the hips nice and steady. Awesome. And then relax, take that soft fist and pad out the outer hip. Okay, and then again, you can keep working the J shape. You can keep working the clamshells if that's where you're at, or we'll try extending the leg a little bit forward. Toes again, turn down, lifting and lowering. So this one for me is one of the hardest ones for sure. It's just got a little bit more weight of your leg to lift and lower. But I've really found this glute strengthening to be so beneficial for my back and my pelvic floor both. Because when the glutes are strong, the pelvic floor doesn't need to compensate. Good. So that feels like about 8 to me. Releasing that when you're ready. And pat out that outer hip. Again, just working to fatigue is where you'll get the strength hitting. Okay. Nice work. And then we'll come to the back. Taking that leg, whichever one you were just working, across the opposite thigh, holding on, gently hugging in. I showed this one last time too. Depends on how big your baby is and how comfortable they are, but I used to sometimes sit Grant just on my shin here, and he'd have a nice little vantage point that he thought was kind of fun. You could also have baby here, you know, if they're, depending on their size, of course, and willingness. And squirminess. Grant is a little too squirmy for a lot of these things now. Good. Okay, so we're gonna do one more for the glutes. This one's super simple, but I really like it. So you can place your feet on the mat, about hips distance apart. So for me, that usually means outer hips distance. And just placing the feet down parallel. This one I still do sometimes with Grant because he actually adds weight to this exercise, and he thinks it's pretty fun because it's like a little ride. So you would just sit baby right here, sort of on the front of your pelvis, and we're just going to do little bridges. So keep your back nice and neutral, engage the core, and then we're just going to lift and lower. Okay, so you don't have to go very high, and you just want to think about lifting and then just not quite lowering all the way down. So it's just basically a little pulse for the glutes, which again help to protect the sacral area, and they help with the pelvic floor as well. Don't worry about this being like a big back bend or anything. Just getting some engagement into the glutes is enough. Try to keep your knees right over your ankles. Okay, if you're not holding a baby, you could just have your hands down, palms down by your sides, and that'll actually just give you a little bit more leverage to work with. You don't have to push down really hard or anything like that. Okay. So this one I actually aim for about 20. Usually the backs of the glutes are a little more willing to do the work than the sides. And, you know, again, you just kind of want to work to that place where you feel like you've got a little bit of fatigue going on in those muscles they've been working. I'm just going to go for 3 more. And then we can relax, hug the knees in, give yourself a little rock from side to side. And here's one that I quite like lately as well. Holding one knee in each hand, allow the knees to separate and then move away from your face. So it's like a little release into the inner thighs, groin. Also really nice if you have tightness in the pelvic floor, hypertonic pelvic floor. And you can keep moving like that. If it's comfortable for you to kind of pause in that open place, maybe rock the legs slightly forward and back. So it's like a little bit of a massage. If that feels like too much, that's totally fine. You can draw the knees together. Maybe just giving that a little moment there. And then stay or try happy baby. Soles of the feet up to the sky, holding whatever's accessible to hold. And again, you could rock a little bit from side to side. So that's also a groin opening. It's just a little bit of a different one. And then you can release the legs when you're ready and maybe give them a little bit of a shake. Hug in. And we're going to talk for a moment here. I want to bring back this idea of hypopressives. So you can try it laying on your back, especially if this is new for you. Come on up to a seat. And yeah, I think we'll incorporate it from there. So the hypopressives, is like a physiotherapy term, but in yoga it's Uddiyana Bandha, or Nali Kriya sometimes. So we're just going to kind of come back to this idea. So what we're going to do is work with our breath to actually lift pressure off the pelvic floor. Super good for prolapse, just feels really good. I found that it's been really nice for just kind of helping my organs to sort of rearrange themselves after pregnancy. And it feels like a little bit of a different kind of a breath. So normally I'll turn to the side here. Normally when we are, maybe I'll just show you like this. Normally when we're trying to breathe into deeply, we breathe into the belly. So the belly goes forward and back. Okay, we can also do this different kind of breath where we're really focused more on the diaphragm, lifting up and widening. So instead, what widens is the rib cage, and it goes like this. So you might just see my belly drawing in a little bit, especially at the top, okay? I'm not contracting my core or anything. It's not a core strengthening. It's actually a bit of a release into the core. So I'm gonna exhale and then inhale, lift and widen. And as I exhale, I just relax, okay? So inhale, lift and widen. And it's like the contents of your belly are kind of coming with you. And then we relax, okay? So I'm just gonna check in with you guys about this breath. Feel free to ask questions. I often like holding the hands here and just really feeling, or even using the hands to kind of lift and separate a little. This is actually the basis of Ujjayi breath as well. So there's almost this hollowing that happens in the belly when we do that. Yeah, good. Okay. So from here, I'd love for us to try this in a little bit of a bridge shape. This is something that we can kind of come back to, but again, when we change our gravity a little bit, the breathing can feel different. So you could actually do this with or without support. It would feel a little bit different in the two ways. So if you have something that you can elevate your hips on, it's helpful to have something a little firmer, like the 2 blocks or 1 block kind of on its second edge. So I'll show both ways. So here I'm just elevating a bit. So I'm taking the pressure off the pelvic floor using gravity. And then rather than trying to breathe here, instead, so my ribs are pulling away from my knees and widening a bit. And my belly is hollowing out a little. Okay. Same exact thing if you're not using the props, you're just using your glutes and other muscles to stay a bit higher, but it's that same feeling of hollowing the belly. So when this is working well, it actually feels like, to me anyway, like such a delightful stretch deep into the psoas, the sort of core muscles into the belly. And it's like all these places that get so compressed from just sitting or whatever it is that we're doing, we can actually get some release here, okay? Okay, when you're working with this breath just in a relaxed way, the belly can move, okay? We're not trying to make the belly be really still, but just the energy is more in, up, and wide rather than down and forward. So it's just a little bit of it might be a little confusing in your head to think about it this way. It's just taking the winds of the breath and moving it in a different direction. So into the sides of the ribs. Okay, and let's take one more nice deep breath here. Okay, and then just relax. If you're sitting up on the blocks, feel free to just hang out there. If you've been in a muscular bridge, just bring your hips down and just take a few normal breaths, just natural breaths, whatever that feels like to you. Could be a sigh. And just see if you notice anything different around your belly. Beautiful, you guys. Okay. When you feel ready, so let's just kind of keep that in mind. You can shift off your blocks if you're not already, and we'll adjust to our hands and our knees. So this is a great place to interact with baby if you've got them around. So you could just put baby right between your hands and spread your fingers under your shoulders, knees underneath your hips, or on fists, or you can do this seated. You don't have to use your hands at all, okay? Cat and cow. So as we inhale, we're just taking a nice back bend, hugging the shoulders onto the back, lifting the chin. Exhale, curling under, widening the space between the shoulder blades. Inhale, opening the chest, opening the throat. Exhale and curl. Okay, so however works best for you to do cat and cow, you can do it in almost any position, even standing with the knees bent. And if you want to add some circles or side to side motion, feel free to do that. Yeah, beautiful. And this one, it just feels so good. It's just so useful for so many things. And this is another one that you can kind of do anytime, anywhere. Just get some movement going. The organs really like this too. Beautiful. Nice. All right. So from here, when you're ready, let's make our way down onto our bellies. This is a little bit more for younger babies, but I used to really like doing tummy time with Grant because I found he hated it so much, and I found it really nice to get down on the floor where he was as well. So I would be really close to the floor so he could see my face. Like I would put him kind of in front of me or beside me. And we're going to do a little bit of shoulder work here for the back and the shoulder blade so that we can kind of get that nice opening into the chest. So just tummy time. Okay, so just laying right down on your belly. Take your hands down by your sides. And then lift the hands a little bit and turn the palms to face up. Press the tops of your feet down so the kneecaps lift. Engage the belly a little bit and think of pressing the pubic bone into the mat. You can lift your chest a little bit, but you don't necessarily have to. I actually find it slightly easier with the chest a little bit lifted. Okay, it doesn't have to be high. Lift the hands. Inhale, and as you exhale, try to touch the thumbs together. Inhale, release a little bit. Exhale, touch the thumbs towards each other. Inhale, and draw them together. As they're drawing together, try also to hug them down your back. So the shoulder blades are coming together and down away from your ears. Okay. Again, it's not a big movement. And this is more about the shoulders for me than the other back muscles. So if you need to do this with your chin down, that's fine. It's actually a little easier if you lift though. For 3, 2, and 1. Nice. And then just relax. You can take your cheek down if you want, or your forehead. Maybe give your bum a little wiggle. Okay, and then place your hands in kind of a cactus shape beside you. Again, engage the tops of the feet into the mat, pubic bone, kneecaps lift. And then as you inhale, lift up any amount. So you can press into the hands a little bit. And then exhale and come down. Inhale and lift. Exhale and come down. So this is one of my favorite therapies for a sore lower back. Okay, which if you're doing all that lifting, putting down in the crib, etc., man, is it ever hard on your back? Okay, and I find this is really corrective. Okay, let's take one more. relax, you can take your opposite cheek down or forehead, relax your bum. You can give it a little wobble from side to side. Okay, and then we'll just try one more for the shoulders here. And we'll just kind of see how it goes. So again, engage the legs like we talked about. Start with your arms in that cactus. And then lift the chest up gently. Okay, and then if you can, lift the hands up as well. So again, it might not be very high. Inhale, and as you exhale, try to touch the elbows together behind your back. Inhale, open a little bit. Exhale, elbows try to touch around behind your back. Inhale, and elbows touch. For 3, long neck. For 2, and 1 more, hugging the elbows together, and relax. Relax your bum, give it a little wobble. Good. Okay, last one here. This is a little bit more of a release. So you're gonna go ahead and actually hook your thumbs around behind your lower back. So straighten the arms out around behind you and hook your thumbs. You could also grab a strap if that's more comfortable for you. Again, engage the lower body. You do not have to lift the chest here if you don't want to. And actually, why don't we try it first without lifting the chest and just see how it feels. So bend the elbows a little, hug them towards each other, pull the thumbs apart and stretch them towards your legs. Okay, you can stay there or try lifting your chest a little bit and just see where does it feel good for you to get that opening into your chest. Sometimes you can even look a little bit from side to side, which kind of massages the chest slightly. Awesome, you guys. And then relax again. And take some nice deep breaths into your back. Okay, and then flip over onto your back. You're welcome to hug your knees in towards your chest. Okay, and this is another one where you can have baby with you, just kind of sitting at the front of your legs, if that's comfortable for you, baby. We're just going to do a little bit here to even that out with the back, just a little bit more core work here, and then we'll move on to some other stuff. There's always so much I want to do, but we'll just do what we can today. So take your middle fingers onto your hip points and your thumbs onto your rib cage. So you've got these 4 points, and just keeping your back neutral and relaxed, imagine that the 4 points are coming in towards each other. I do want you to engage your pelvic floor. So think about gathering that blueberry in and up to your body, toward your heart. Okay. Inhale, and as you exhale, slide your right leg forward any amount. It doesn't have to go all the way to straight. And then exhale and draw the heel back in. This is called heel slides. Okay. And then the left leg extends and draws back in. This is one of my favorite core exercises for rehabilitation, because we're not really load bearing the core. We're just kind of working with keeping the stability happening and then adding a little bit of variation with the legs. So this is an awesome one for getting the psoas going as well. So just keep on drawing those 4 points together without flattening your back to the ground. And if you're feeling like this is pretty good, you're comfortable adding on a little bit, what you can do instead is lift your shins up and then just tap 1 foot down at a time. So that's going to be a little bit more load bearing. That's going to be adding a little bit more challenge. And then if you're there and you want to add the upper abdominals, you can lift your shoulder blades up off the mat as well. But I want you to really keep thinking about the belly button drawing in and up, especially if you have diastasis, which I have a little bit. Most of us have a little bit, depending. But the work is really drawing the belly in and up, so not popping forward. So it's the deeper abdominals that are working to support, okay? Okay, and let's just take a couple more. Again, just working to that place of fatigue is where the strengthening happens, and that might be after 3, it might be after 20, and it doesn't matter. And then relax, hug your knees in towards your chest, give yourself a little hug. Or if you like the butterfly shape with the legs, you could do that instead. Okay. Beautiful, you guys. Okay. So I'm gonna change our orientation once again. So I'm gonna get you to make your way back to your hands and your knees. And goodness, there's just so much I want to do. From hands and knees, we're going to find a downward facing dog or a standing forward fold. So you can do either. I just want you to get a little bit of a feeling for an inversion so we can come back to this quality of hypopresses, okay? So I'm just going to maybe show this first so that you can kind of see what's going on. So here's downward dog, right? I'm not sure if you guys can see my belly very well here, but the hypopressive looks like this. So I'm inhaling and exhaling. So it's that same quality of lifting the ribs. And the belly is kind of hollowing in and up. I can do this in a standing forward bend too, with my hands on the ground or even elbows on knees, okay? And it's that same feeling. I actually like to do this in almost a little bit of a halfway lift. Again, it's inhaling and exhaling. So the ribs are widening and they're pulling all of that abdominal stuff up off the pelvic floor. Yeah. Good. And if you're in downward dog, you're welcome to pedal your heels out a little bit, bending one knee at a time. And then let's meet in standing forward bend if you're not there already. So go ahead and walk your feet towards your hands. Feet can be as wide as you need them to be. And let's just take a moment to relax the weight of the head. So you could hold opposite elbows or fingertips could be on the mat. If you want to keep playing with those breaths, you're welcome to. Okay, it can feel really nice to do that work. I find it can really help release my lower back too. And let's roll up to standing. So lean back into your heels, draw belly in and roll. If you're more comfortable looking forward and rising up with a flat spine, you can do it that way too. We talked a bit last time about how to lift baby from the ground, right? So if you're in that situation, you widen your feet, you bend your knees a lot, so your butt gets really nice and low. Pick up the baby and you use your legs to come up, right? So that's another way to explore that. And coming back down, butt goes first. Baby comes down, okay? So keep that in mind. Okay, and if you're holding baby, that's fine. If baby can be on the floor, that's fine too. We're just going to do a very, very brief little standing here. Not too much. This is actually more for the neck and shoulders. So again, you can take your hands around behind your back, hook the thumbs, or if you want, you can interlace the fingers. Hug the elbows together, press the hands down and find that opening in the chest again. Hands could press a little bit away from your body. Then tuck your chin in and bring one ear over towards your shoulder. And then come up through center, chin is tucked in, and over to the other side. Just a couple more breaths here. And then bring your head back to center, relax your hands. You can roll your shoulders a couple of times, maybe shake your hands out, that's a great idea. Just noticing how that feels. Good. Bring your hands up beside your shoulders. Spread the fingers. And then curl the knuckles down and make a little paw with your hands, like this. And then inhale, spread the fingers, open them as wide as you can. And then curl in. Couple more like that. Yeah. This is called the begging dog. It's one of my favorite wrist release exercises. And if you do this every day, it really helps to strengthen the wrist, and it can make a big difference if you do have some wrist stuff going on. Bye, Emily. Thanks for coming. Love you. Good. Okay, and then next time you're curled in, just pause there. And then relax and you can circle. My video looks like it's going a little bit wonky, but you guys can still hear me okay, right? Yes? Okay, awesome. That's great. Okay, so we're gonna cool down now and work towards some shavasana. Okay, so let's actually come back to standing on the mat if you're not already, and let's do that little put baby down on the ground practice. So imagine you're holding baby or a weight. And then widen your feet apart a little bit, toes slightly turned out, thumb goes down first. Place the piece down, and then you can sit down too. Okay. All right, so we're going to take one of my favorite little massages for the back here. Lots more that we can do, but that's why we have more than one of these classes. So we're going to take the soles of the feet together, knees open wide. You can support that if you want. I like to have the heels a little bit farther away from the groin. And then just holding maybe the knees to start. Hug the shoulders onto the back again. Draw the chin in lightly and bring one ear to the shoulder. And then rock the chin down. And then to the left, the other shoulder. So it's a little semicircle. And I want you to think of it like a massage. So just slowly, gently rocking from side to side. And relax your shoulders. So your shoulders can come with your head. And then you can add a little bit of the upper back, rolling forward. And then a little bit of the mid back or the hips just starting to dip down a little bit. So you might start to feel that in the hips a little bit. You can do this with your eyes closed and just sort of swaying side to side. Taking your time and just even pausing where you feel a little bit of a stretch. And just really enjoying this, taking your time with it. I find for me, my upper back is so reactive with all of the baby carrying stuff. And this just feels like such a nice way to kind of massage that area. All those tight spots along the back and the hips. So feel free to keep doing this, or if you'd like to fold down and stay for a few breaths kind of symmetrically, feel free to do that. Just keep the neck and the head relaxed. And then when you're ready, roll yourself back up through center. Take your fingertips around behind your back. Hug the shoulder blades together, press into the earth, and just puff up your chest again. You can lift your chin as little or as much as you want. And then draw your knees together. Widen the feet apart and take some windshield wipers. And then give your legs a little shake. So we're gonna find our way from here into Shavasana. So that can look like lots of different things. You know, especially if you've got a little one with you, maybe it's seated and just taking a moment to kind of feel. If you can, take a really comfortable position to rest in. You could be laying on your side or on your back, or if you want to return to that pose that we started with, laying back over a little piece of support, feel free to take that. Just finding a place where you can rest. And maybe just coming back to that question, what can I let go of? We can't always let go of everything. That's okay. That's normal. That's life. But sometimes we're holding more than we really need. So can I release this tension in my jaw? Can I let my shoulders drop a little further to the floor? How much can I rest in this moment? So you're welcome to stay as long as you can and want to. If you feel ready to move out of your Shavasana, we can take a couple of deep breaths. Wiggling the toes and the fingers, maybe rocking the head from side to side. And reach your arms up over your head and take a nice deep stretch. And then gather in the knees. And roll to one side, especially if you're coming off the bolster, just taking a moment to breathe into the back body again. When you're ready, come on back up to a seat. You can take your hands together at your heart or over top or wherever feels right for you. Just take a moment to bow your mind to your hands and really honor and acknowledge the work that it took for you to show up to your practice. Whatever that practice looked like, however much of it you were able to be present for. Just honoring that that's not easy and you did it. Honoring and acknowledging the long and complex lineage of teachers that is with us in our practice. And honoring the land that we practice on, wherever that may be in the world. And thank you for sharing that practice.